In our next tutorial, we will show you how to edit the gallery page on your website. By logging in and being greeted with your dashboard, we will use our mouse to navigate to the pages, and we will select all pages. Once this is loaded, we can either use the search bar to search for our gallery, or we can scroll through the list until we find it. Next, we will select Edit with Elementor, and we will let the page load fully before we continue. Please note that the gallery page may take a fair amount of time to load, as there could be a few images for it. Now that the page is loaded, again we will use our mouse cursor just in the previous tutorial to navigate across the site. While navigating, we will notice the borders appear. Again, we will start by editing the top section, and selecting the Edit button, we will see that the window on the left will appear. With the layout, we can change the content width, column gap height, and so forth. Our parallax and particles you do not need to worry about, as these have already been set up. In the structure, you can see that it is set to 100 as we only have one column in this section. Moving on to the styling side, we can choose to change the background. As you can see, we currently have a background of all the members sitting. We can change this by simply selecting the image, and the media library will appear. Here we can scroll through and choose an image if we have it already uploaded. If not, we can simply say Upload Files, and we can upload them from our computer. Next, we will close this, and we will move on. As you can see, we have our position set to Custom. This way we can see most of the members neatly. We can change this, however, by simply moving the slider to the left and to the right. I will set that back to default, and we will continue. Next, you can see that we have our attachment set to scroll, so it scrolls with the page. Our repeat is set to no repeat, and our size is set to cover. Scrolling down, we can come to our background overlay. Here you can see we currently have a color overlay of black set to 0.5. We can change this by simply choosing a new color. I will set that back to black, and we will continue. Here we can change the strength of the transparency as seen here. I will now set that back to default, and we will continue. Scrolling down, we have come to our border section. Again, we are able to add a border by selecting the type, inserting the border radius, and choosing our color. We are also able to add a border for a hover effect by doing the same steps. As you can see, we have a red border, and when we hover over it, it will change to red. Black, my apologies. I will now set this back to default, and we will continue. Again, we have the option to add a shape divider either at the top or the bottom of the section. We can do this by choosing our type and continuing with the steps below. Lastly, our typography section you need not worry about, as this is already set up, as well as the advanced section, which you do not need to fiddle with. Moving away from our section, we will now edit a column. Again, we will use the mouse cursor to navigate and locate the Edit Column button, and the window on the left will appear. Again, we have the options to change the layout, as well as the styling of this column. Next, we will move from our column onto an actual widget. Using our mouse cursor, we have located our gallery, being a heading widget. Selecting the Edit button, the window on the left will appear. Here we can change the title, which changes are reflected live, and we can also add a link to this. We can change the size, as well as the HTML tag and the alignment of the text. Moving on to the styling section, here we can choose to change the color of the text. By selecting the box, we can simply choose which color we desire. Moving on, we have come to the typography. By expanding this window, we can change the font, the size, as seen here, the weight. We're able to transform the text, change the style, as well as decorate it. We're also able to change the line height and letter spacing. We will close this window and we will continue. In our advanced tab, again, you do not need to worry about this, as we have already set it up for you. Moving on, we will scroll down to the actual widget containing the gallery. As you can see, this entire section is one widget. By selecting Edit Gallery, the window on the left will appear. Here we can choose to change the type of the gallery. At the moment it is set up to single, and we have 14 images included. By clicking on here, a new window will appear where we are able to edit the gallery. Here we can simply drag images around to reorder them, or we can use the cross button to remove the image altogether. If we wish, we are also able to add to this gallery. We'll simply select Add to Gallery, and we are given the option to upload a file from our computer, or we can choose from the files already inserted. Here I will simply select the first 3 images, and we will select Add to Gallery. By default, it will add the new images to the end of the gallery. We will now show you how to remove these if they are the incorrect images. You will simply just hit the cross, and once you are happy with the gallery, we will select Insert Gallery. Next, we can choose how to order the gallery. This we have set to default. Moving on, we can choose to have our lazy load on and off. I would prefer if you would not select this on, as it will make the page take longer to load. Next, we can choose our layout, which in this case is grid set to 3 columns with a spacing of 10. We can change that to justified, and you can see it shows the images in their actual aspect ratio. We'll set that back to default, and we will continue. Next, we can choose the link. In other words, when the user clicks on the image, what will happen? In this case, we have selected media file, which will open the image to a larger size. Next, we can choose our aspect ratio, which I would advise you not to change, and we can choose our image size, which we can set to full. Moving on to the overlay, we can choose to have an overlay for these images. As you can see, we have set the background on. Moving on to the style section, here we're able to add a border color, as seen here. And we're able to change the border width and radius. We're also able to add a hover animation. I'll simply select Zoom In, and you can see when we hover over it, the images will zoom in. We can choose Move Right, and when we hover, the images will move to the right. Next, we have come to our overlay, where we can choose a color overlay for the images. As you can see, we currently have a gray overlay effect when hovering over the images. You can see this by navigating to hover, and you can see we have the color inserted there. Lastly, in our content, we can choose the alignment, vertical alignment, the padding, as well as the hover animation. Lastly, in our advanced section, you do not need to worry about this, as it is already set up for the page. Once we are happy with the gallery, we will simply select Update at the bottom left. That is how you would edit and update your gallery page.